started from Mornington, and I went from Morning to Villar, which is up there somewhere. Then from there I went to Tellier Boys Home. From there I went to Doncaster. From there I went to St Andrews near King Lake. From there I went to Bragalong. Then I went from there to Gaganya, which is out 20 miles out from Albury. Then I went from there to Warrigal, and from Warrigal to Coongup. It's all happening, from there to Mafra. I must say that since from young till I was 14, Tellier Boys Home, Burwood. That was on the corner of Burwood High Street and Burwood Road, I think. That was a big boys' home, Tellier's Boys Home. And St Andrews is just before you get to King Lake. That was a boys' home. Mornington was a home for children. When I was pushed to say Royal, that was my elder brother worked on a farm there, and I was put there, and I used to have to walk to school from the farm. That was there, Bullen School, walk across the paddocks to the school. Coongup, that was a farm owned by the Castlemaine Bacon Factory at Coongup. Gaganya, I learned to ride horse at Gaganya. There was a farm up in 20 miles out from Albury. Right, in Mafra was making campfire making. I used to have to carry the wood, which they make into charcoal, and they used to sell charcoal. It's from there. So it was from that by along, because I learned to ride at Gaganya on that farm. I used to have to go out and chase cattle. And they said to me, he said, why don't you like to be a jockey? He said, I got a friend who's a trainer in Albury. I laughed. And it was always in the back of my mind. And it was only when I went to Mafra on this charcoal farm. But I was 14 or 14 and a half. I thought, oh, damn it, I'll try to be a jockey. So I came back to Melbourne by myself, and I went and had a Turkish bath because I was worried I'd be late. So I wanted to make myself light. And I applied to Bradfields in Flemington, and he put me on. But then he transferred me after 1 year to Steve Murphy at Werribee. Became apprentice to Steve Murphy at Werribee. He transferred me at 16, and I would have got my riding licence by the time I was 18. I had a riding licence, and I already had a 4-bike race for Moonee Valley one day riding a horse. I do Saturday races. I put myself in hospital, called Recco horse. So then the war, I was in the war, I got a job at Air Force stores, and the commander used to let me off every Wednesday, because I used to go and ride in races. When I won one, I was a toast to the camp. I was working in the stores in the war, mainly Port Melbourne and Sydney. No races. I got one race at Yarra Glen. I won the race at Geelong while I was in the Air Force. So when I got disbanded from the Air Force after the war, I used to ride track work at Caulfield. The chappie one day said to me, one of the owners, he said, Kenny, you got no family, have you? I said, no. He said, how would you like to go to India? I said, don't kid me. He said, no, I'll get you, would you like to go to India? I said, I'd love to go to India. He said, I'll get you a job. Because we're exporting horses. I was just 21. They were exporting horses to India after the war. So I didn't know who's Adelaide, Pat Glennon's Glennon Racing, were looking for a lightweight rider for their stable. So I applied and they gave me a job. So Pat Glenn won the Melbourne Cup on Comic Court. So Pat was heavyweight rider and I was lightweight rider for the Glenn stable in Adelaide. And I get the email or a telegram one day, telling me, urgently come to Melbourne, got your job in here. So I flew back to Melbourne and the fellow was Australian bloodstock. The guy was and when I went to his office, he said, oh, I'm sorry, Kenny. He said, I wouldn't let you take that job. I said, why? He said, there's a Hindu-Muslim war over there. He said, it's very bad. He said, I had a job for Bombay. He said, no, look, but he said, don't worry, I'll get you one. So back I go to Adelaide, and I can never tell him about it. 2 months later, Kenny, urgent, contact me, Melbourne. So I ring him up, and he said, I've got a job for Salon. Salon's not racing. He said, no, but he said, this guy trainer is a head trainer in Salon. He's taken a team of horses to South India and he wants a jockey. So I took that on. And I had no money, so I had a wristlet watch, put it into Joel's auction to get some money. I went by flying boat to India, get to Calcutta. I was supposed to be met at the airport. No bugger met me. So the airport put me in the hotel. And anyway, this guy turned up late that night and he apologised for not meeting me. He was held up. So anyway, he arranged to meet me next morning when I was train to Madras. And that was 2 days travelling in the train. They put me in this train carriage with an Indian guy, he eating betel nuts, and he was spitting in the spittoon at 10 feet away. And I was shocked and everything like it. So then I arrived in Madras, and so we get to Madras. I'm living with this train at this stage, and anyway, another Sudanese took some horses up there, and a mate of mine from Melbourne, Desi Burke, was coming to be his jockey. And I was doing track work on these horses. And Desi arrived on a Wednesday before Saturday races. It was the first race on Saturday. Because I had to start a race in Madras. And I said to Desi, I said, what the bloody hell did you stop back in Australia to do that? I said, this bloody horse, I'll be right, it'll win on Saturday. He said, you can ride. He said, I won't take my licence out this weekend. And I was riding a thing called Commander, a Sydney horse, and he ran 4th in the Epsom handicap in Sydney. And this was a 6 furlong race, pouring, blowing rain, shocking. And I'd been riding work for this guy, plus the other guy. And I thought this horse could win, working well. It was only 6 furlong. I said to my trainer, I said, you know, I said, that bloody race has half this 4 horses will drop dead. I said, it's so heavy out there. I said, it's going to be like a mile race, if not more. And I said, the thing I'm riding will plough first. He's a mile. Sure enough, I won at 50 to 1. It was my first ride, 50 to 1. That was my start riding India. Well, I was in India in 47, I found an old passport, a matter of fact. End of July 46, when I went there. End of July 46. I met Gloria. She was in what they call the wax or something. She worked in some army. She had wax here. And she was in the Army Corps. She was a secretary. And I met her there because when I moved from the train, I was somewhere to a house to board. And our jockey was living in this house. And Gloria, used to come there now and again because that was her aunt. And you know, I probably got to hard to talk to her much. And the racing club used to have what they call a whist night every week. And it was housey all stuff, housey night. And they play housey, you know, two ducks, I mean, they call the numbers there. Bingo. They used to a bingo night at the race club. So local people would come to and Gloria and her mother used to come there. So that's when I really got to know Gloria a little bit. And so I really only knew her for 2-3 months, if that. And her and her mother went to England, migrated to England, because all that time of Anglo-Indian people were going to England. And I'd gone to Bangalore at this stage, and I met her train in Bangalore on the way to the boat to go to England. So I was promised, I said, I will bring you back. So when she went to England, I kept writing to her, brought her out to Colombo and married her in Colombo. So I took her, I paid her fare by boat to Ceylon. They married her in Ceylon. So that's where we started from. But I really didn't know more than 2 months in there. We had a relationship with nothing, because everything was young people, just like one another. And she had a pretty tough life in the earlier years. That's why she got so fussy, because she was the youngest of 6 children her mother had. Dad died when she was 8. So, and I was damn broke when I married her, and I always said one day I'll make you a millionaire. And I did do that. She was so fussy and appreciated things she got. It was like a gold mine to her, Having nothing, everything she appreciated so much. And the tough times I had in those years. When I gave up racing over my last ride, I wrote a thing called Variation at Colac. And Variation was one of the best 2-year-olds to race in Melbourne, but he got very sour and was bashed around too much. The result was he just wouldn't go near barriers or race. I started riding work at Fleming for Jacobson. And I asked Jacobson one day, I said, can I ride this horse in the race with him? And I told him how I used to ride St. Just, because St. Just had gone through all that. The first time I rode St. Just, I nearly went over his bloody head. As soon as I touched him, he was a spurs. So from that day on, I rode him no whip, no spurs. So I thought, started to ride this horse the same way. And he used to gallop well for me. So Jacobson said, okay, he's running with Colac, you ride him with Colac. He wouldn't go near the barrier for me. Would not go near the barrier. So I got left 10 lengths and ran second. So then I filed in a protest. Because the guy who run the race did cut me off about 3 furlongs out on my rails run. And they fined me for frivolous protest. No, I don't bugger. So it was a village race. So I gave up racing and I got a job. I was getting £11 a week and paying £6.50 for a room in St Kilda. So we had very tough it was. I had to get me fare out of it was a balance that £3.50 fare. And Gloria had to get food for him, so it was very tough going. And so then my brother, Stan, had a big photography studio in Collins Street, Melbourne, called Byron Studios. And he used to have guys taking photographs of children's homes. He had what they called door knockers first. They'd make an appointment for his photographer to go. Salesmen take the proofs out to go and get orders. And Doug Baxley, a very good golfer in Victoria, he was one of his fellows. He had Johnny Moyes, he had some really good guys selling. And so he wouldn't let me go and sell. He said, you couldn't sell a donkey, you didn't. So he gave me a job writing his books in half in the studio. So I had to work till every night to rewrite his cut him in half. So I'd sensation. And I kept acting and acting and acting to let me go and sell. So I used to see what money these guys were making. And I went out with Johnny Moyes, the sales guy, one day to see how he'd done it. And he was one of the best sales guys I ever seen. He knocked on the door, the minute the door opened, he slid his foot in. So he could get away with this. And I said to my brother, please let me have a chance to try this selling. So he gave me a batch of 12 envelopes one day. He said, he said, you want to go out selling Chivies? I had no car, no nothing. So I used to walk from Glen Huntly to East Bentley. I haven't been walking night, all night. So you can get myself sopping wet in the rain, selling photographs. I was getting success in stuff they'd brought back as no orders. That's what he gave me. What he gave me was things returned as no orders. And I made 85% orders out of it. Eventually I became in charge of all the sellers. And what happened was he set up, he gave me a book, KE Agency. I said, what's this for? He said, I want you to do all your selling under KE Agency book. So Johnny Moyes, one of the sales guy, he said, Kenny, he said, you know what your brother's done? I said, no, he wants to be selling this book. He said, you know what happens, don't you? He said, KE Agency is going to be responsible for all the tax of sales under Biscuit and there. He said, you're going to be caught for a lot of tax. He said, what your brother's done, he hasn't told you. But what he's done, he's wanting you to sell under KE because it's your initials. He said, and so therefore you will be responsible for tax. So I said, what do I do, John? So John said to me, Ken, he said, I would suggest you write a letter to the taxation office, exonerating yourself in relation to ownership of a company that you're just a salesperson. Which I said, John, will you write me a letter? John wrote a letter for me. I sent that in there. So they didn't get me for days, but he got caught for tax. Vern, I know, died at 77 because he had tuberculosis, lost one lung. I knew he died at age 77. But she said there that her mother died at 102. Now, if Stan was alive, he'd be 100. Yeah. Well, I'd like to know a little bit about my family. She believes that knows a fair bit. What she does say there, the breakup of our family, Minnie and Henry, was very sad. He was my mother, and my father Henry. They split up because what Lou said to me, how can any woman leave 4 young children and walk away from them? But Lou asked me, I said, I don't know, Lou. But according to her emails, she knows. But I would have loved to have known, well, get at least a picture of my sister. You know, I have a vague memory of her when she was about 18, I think. She used to work down in Hampton in a store called like Gilpin's, which was like Coles, one of those type of. And that's the last time I can ever remember. Oh no, that was when I came back from India with Barry and Glory. I stopped with my sister at Maidstone for a month. She lived in Maidstone then, but she had 2 boys. At that stage, I was in 50. Yeah, it was 51 we came. After 1 month, I moved from her to my brother who lived in Pascoe Vale, Bern. But I only stopped a month with him when I got this boarding house in St Mary Street, St Kilda. I got a job at A.H. Gibson's in Flemington, and one of the chappies said to me one day, he said, Kenny, he said, where do you live? I told him, he said, can't you get out? I said, no, I can't get out, I've got the money. He said, look, he said, you're in the Air Force, which I said, yeah. He said, I got a friend of mine in war services. I'll have a talk to you, see if I can get you a war service home. So he got me my first home in East Bentley, which was a war service home. And Gloria used to have to go walking in the mud and push a pram. There was no roads, it was all market yard. Back in that place, working over, I'd go to Gibson's during the day, and at night, when I stopped working in the studio in Collins, I went out walking, selling. And I used to get home about 10:30, it'd be night. And the weekends, eventually my brother gave me one of his cars. And on weekends I used to go to the country and work all day Saturday, Sunday, door knocking, selling photographs in the country, and come home 11 o'clock Sunday night. So we had for years she had to put up with all that. No woman would have done it, no woman. Good not. I was very lucky that I had a girl who really appreciated what I'd done, knew I'd worked so hard. Oh, I'd be very interested in the background of some of my family stuff she talks about. I can remember, he used to, when the last job I had on a farm was Kagunya, just outside of Albury, and he came up to pick me up. to take me away from there. And he had different women every time he came near me. And he asked me that day, he said, how much money have you got? And I told him, I said, I've been saving up to buy a watch. He said, give me your money. He said, I'll buy a watch. So he went and bought me a 2 and 6 watch with holes. Took all the money out. So it's a tough time. The last time I could ever see my mum was, I can vaguely remember Stan Byrne and myself first. We went to Mrs. Goldfinch in Camberwell. So now I've now found that for a little generation. But Mrs. Goldfinch was my mother's sister. I was stopping there, living there. That's the last any memory I have.
Happy birthday to you. Hip hip. Hooray! 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 Well done! Yay!
Only 2 to go.
Even make mine.
2 to go.
2 to go.
Who wants a piece?
Yeah.
You get some cake?
Yeah.
Get some cake?
Birds that my grandfather feeds. Hello, everybody. Hello. Hello. He'll be out soon. Yeah.